You won't find this wall on modern world maps, even though it was shown on most ancient maps, and in 1884 it was officially recognized as the international timeline. You won't read about it in modern geography textbooks, even though it is the largest, most prominent, and most significant geological structure on Earth. You won't find it on the new Google Maps of the Earth. It was hastily and crudely cut from the maps in 2017, leaving a rough seam of a blind spot along the 180th meridian that is still visible on all world maps. You won't read about it in textbooks, even though all of humanity's most expensive scientific projects of the last few decades have been centered around this wall. You won't find stories about it in history books, even though all the peoples of the Earth know about it from their legends. You won't find any mention of this wall in modern sociologists, politicians, oceanographers, chemists, or physicists, even though all of these and many other fields of science have been secretly and closely studying it for a long time. It won't be mentioned in churches, synagogues, or mosques, although God speaks of it in the holy scriptures of Christians, Jews, Muslims, and even pagans, as the true cornerstone, the foundation of the earth. It seems to exist, but those who know about it have already felt the need to speak of it. But in this world, power belongs to a magisterium that desires to control all of humanity, and the Golden Compass is a clear threat to that. Scientists constantly blurred out the wall in scientific publications, and Hollywood even made a famous Truman Show out of it. Rich and influential people are well aware of the wall and even swim near it, but they prefer not to talk about it or even think about it, lest they lose their position or their heads. Nevertheless, the internet is full of photos of the wall taken near the Fiji Islands. Many news agencies and channels excerpt and reuse bits and pieces of information collected by Doctor of Sciences Oleg Zhigankov. But in this official film, the author briefly presents the most important information about the wall that every inhabitant of planet Earth should know. This gigantic underwater wall, approximately 5 kilometers wide and rising from the ocean floor 2 to 6 kilometers high, encircles the Earth from the Arctic to Antarctica and runs along the 180th meridian. Now I'll briefly share what I've discovered over 10 years of research into the Great Underwater Wall. We'll begin with some scientific research, and then discuss the wall's ancient history, its designation on ancient maps, its functions, and its practical significance. Over the course of 10 years of studying the Great Underwater Wall, I've collected volumes of material, thousands upon thousands of pages, which clearly and unequivocally indicate not only the existence of the Great Underwater Wall, but also the fact that it has long been studied and buried and is being developed by major American and international corporations. GLOMER is a syllabic acronym for the company Global Marine Development, which the CIA commissioned to build the GLOMER Explorer. The term glomerization arose during the cover-up of facts about the Great Underwater Wall back in the 1970s, when all the results of the Hughes GLOMER Explorer expedition were classified, and the drilling materials for the Great Underwater Wall were criminally confiscated from the project's founder and, at the time, the world's richest and most influential man, Howard Hughes. Howard Hughes himself was eliminated during a CIA operation. The minerals extracted from the wall cost the life of the richest and most influential man in the world, American tycoon Howard Hughes, the founder of the global aerospace industry. All the research materials recovered by his ultra-expensive GLOMER Explorer were classified. This is where the new term glomerization came from in U.S. legal code. 3 years earlier, the Scripps Institution of Oceanography had already conducted shallow water drilling at the Great Wall. This inspired Hughes to devote all his efforts to the project of extracting minerals from the deep water sections of the Great Wall. It is noteworthy that Howard Hughes named the vessel the Hughes GLOMER Explorer after the GLOMER Challenger, which was the first to drill the Great Wall. Functional data on the wall's exploration date back to 1972. The first reports on the Deep-Sea Drilling Project, Volume 28, are dedicated to the 28th stage of the GLOMER Challenger expedition. During the expedition, a total of 16 boreholes were drilled at 11 sites, extracting 1,404 cubic meters of sediment. A total of 7,400 nautical miles were traveled during the transit between ports. All research was conducted along the 180th meridian. After hundreds and hundreds of pages pointing to the enormous differences in temperature and salinity parameters, the general chemical composition of the water, the direction of currents, flora and fauna, the level and composition of the sea on both sides of the 180th meridian, where, as scientists have stipulated, a special ancient stone structure lies. End of quote. This is one of many scientific acknowledgments of the wall's existence, although publications generally avoid discussing the wall itself. But let's look at more recent and ongoing research into the wall. New scientific research. The scientific community has been talking about the Great Underwater Wall for several decades. This is unsurprising, given the scale of research that has been taking place around the wall for decades. But the only general conclusions typically released to the public in specialized scientific journals are, I quote, "An ancient rock structure discovered in the center of the Ross Ice Shelf determines where Antarctic ice melts and where water turns to ice. It's the same one that runs like a spoke through the Ross Sea. An ancient rock structure has been discovered beneath Antarctica." This is the title an influential scientific journal recently used to announce the November 3, 2021, issue of Science Journalist, a cumulative study by several teams, even several generations, of Antarctic explorers. This is a brief public report from a group of leading Antarctic researchers who want, but are unable, to share everything they know about the object they have directly or indirectly, often indirectly, explored. The ancient watershed in the rocks that divides Antarctica into eastern and western parts controls the flow of water beneath the Ross Ice Shelf and the rate at which its parts are melting. The boundary was discovered using a new detector mounted on an aircraft that can collect magnetic and gravitational data on the ice shelf as it moves. Scientists have unwittingly discovered that non-acidic gases from cities and factories are behind the melting, formation, and growth of glaciers. According to numerous studies, an ancient rock structure plays a key role in water temperature, and therefore the planet's overall temperature regime. Without this claim about a watershed, about an ancient rock structure that bisects the Ross Sea like a spoke, another quote from a scientific journal, the entire research effort of numerous research teams is nullified. And these are all real people. They want more than just money, and they're throwing notes in bottles, one way or another. Lots of scientific notes. We present chemical evidence for this study, published in 2008 in the journal Marine Chemistry. Most of the ACC flow is concentrated around one area. This section is the 180th meridian, on either side of which measurements were taken, revealing a very significant difference in the chemical composition of the water on either side of the ancient rock structure. The choice of the 180th meridian in 2008 for the study was neither random nor arbitrary. Since 1972, climate studies of the Arctic and Antarctic have been conducted along the 180th meridian. In 2017, scientists, this time armed with a powerful modern scanning system in addition to chemical testers, are again conducting their study along the 180th meridian and are again discovering new and interesting facts. Specifically, they discovered that the outflow of ultra-cold glacial waters originates near the Ross Ice Shelf front along approximately 180 degrees longitude, and that only in this region of the world do enormous square icebergs form. The scientists' findings up to 2017 can be summarized as follows. A massive structure on the ocean floor at the 180th meridian acts as a channel wall or trench, focusing and directing the flow of glacial waters in Antarctica's most powerful glaciated region and dividing both the water and the seafloor into two distinct climate zones. Here's what else can be pointed out to completely eliminate any possibility of accidentally conducting research along the 180th meridian. Surely the participants of the 2008 expedition knew about this, and more. Piece by piece, scientists have finally brought to us all the facts, and when put together, only one conclusion can be drawn, the very one I reached. In a series of publications, scientists have laid out, one by one, two by two, all the pieces of the grand puzzle they discovered. Scientists have also repeatedly laid out the coordinates of this enormous watershed, which regulates the temperature and currents of ocean waters, determines the bedrock, and determines the life of flora and fauna. And this is always the 180th meridian, along which the Great Underwater Wall runs. Let's clarify that only brief abstracts or research reports were published in journals. Scientific organizations are obliged to do this, as they rely on taxes from the population and grants from sponsors, and therefore are obliged to provide at least a brief report. But the research itself remains classified, and its results are exclusively available to the sponsoring organization. All the collected information officially remains with NASA and Buck CRM. It functions as a giant refrigerator and heater, and like a faucet releasing water from the abyss to the surface, and remove the excess water somewhere. In addition to their measuring instruments, the scientists themselves witnessed how, in the freezing Arctic winter, the sea, which is then covered in thick ice, not only did not freeze, but actually steamed. This was the beginning of that famous 2017 journey, during which the scientists let slip the exact location of an ancient stone structure along the 180th meridian. This was the journey after which Antarctica, or more precisely the Ross Sea, would become a closed, secret, and protected zone.
Какое место на карте России, где вы еще не были и хотели бы посетить?
Чукотка.
I believe that with his visit to Inadir, the city where Inadir, Alatar, and Cayman are held, the Russian president Putin at the beginning of 2024, it was the president's first trip of the new year. The Russian president silently made it clear to serious people around the world, the most serious people, that Russia is well aware of its special position and mission. We will briefly present the last joint report, before the region was classified, of a lecture by a group of scientists in the most authoritative scientific journal. In fact, this study became the final hurdle, after which it was decided to declare this entire zone closed. Let's talk a little about this expedition. An international team of scientists boarded the research vessel OGS Explorer in the port of Hobart, Tasmania, on January 19, 2017, setting out on a 2-month expedition to uncover the secrets of the Antarctic ice sheet's response to past, present, and future climate change. The team encountered the smallest area of Antarctic sea ice recorded in the past 20 years. What did we discover? We found that the outflow of ultra-cold glacial water originates near the Ross ice shelf front along approximately 180 degrees longitude. We measured the temperature, outflow dynamics, and other water properties as the glacial water overflowed the continental shelf. In their very brief but very comprehensive conclusions, the scientists practically declare that all the key ocean life processes they studied, the answers to which they sought, the shifting direction of ocean currents, the dramatic changes in water temperature, salinity, and other processes determined by the morphography and topography of the seafloor, all occur along the 180th meridian. No more, no less. They pinpointed with precision this ancient rock structure that has determined the course of life for centuries. This seafloor morphology, this spoke intersecting the Ross Sea, the 180th meridian. This study was the last of a series of unclassified studies in the Ross Sea. By the end of that same 2017, a number of international organizations had established a marine protected area in the Ross Sea, meaning the Ross Sea became classified, closed to all but specially designated groups. The protected area covers 1.55 million square kilometers, the largest closed zone in the world. The Ross Sea and Great Wall, a secret Western project, are being investigated. The project, codenamed Ross Sea, Rosetta Ice, is one of the secret projects studying the Great Wall. Since 1997, scientists involved in this research have been writing about the phenomenon of square icebergs. 30 years later, scientists have still not provided an official explanation for this extraordinary phenomenon. However, it turns out that these unique, unparalleled icebergs form precisely along the 180th meridian, where, as the scientists have let slip, an ancient rock structure runs. This involves several teams of scientists who have been studying Antarctica for several decades. There are at least 6 scientific papers of interest related to the wall and the square icebergs forming around it. We present excerpts from some of these papers and excerpts from a report by Columbia University researchers studying the Ross Sea and its anomalies. The journal Geoscience reports on a multi-year study by a group of Canadian scientists of square icebergs, which, according to the scientists, form along an ancient rock structure that comes close to the water's surface in this area. From this structure, completely flat, unusual icebergs then break off, spreading out in both directions from the 180th meridian. They have a completely different crystal lattice than all other icebergs, determined by an external source, from which the ice grows in both directions, according to scientists, like fingernails, from a center near the 180th meridian. Photo taken on October 16, 2018, over the Ross Sea by NASA astronaut Jeremy Harvick. Scientists have discovered a distinct transition zone dividing the ice sheet in two. If Antarctica were a giant wheel, this boundary would extend like a spoke from the center of the South Pole, dividing Antarctica into eastern and western parts. This is not some imaginary line creating some arbitrary division. As scientists have discovered, this line, straight as a spoke or an arrow, is a geographical formation of unknown etymology, and this ancient stone structure crosses the Ross ice sheet. This map seems to illustrate the author's thesis about a giant spoke extending from the South Pole and cutting through the middle of the Ross ice shelf. Columbia University published the following information on its website. The team used measurements of Earth's gravity with an iPad to model the shape of the seafloor beneath the ice shelf. We could see that the geological boundary makes the seafloor on the east side of Antarctica much deeper than on the west, and this affects how ocean water circulates beneath the ice shelf, explained Kirsty Tinta, a Lamont research scientist who led all 3 field expeditions and is the study's lead author. Knowing about this rock structure, though not necessarily being able to reach it, helps us better understand Antarctica's melting patterns in many ways. The project that discovered this intriguing rock is known as the Roshi Taichi Project, and scientists will continue to study similar things as long as they can. We won't be able to understand this fascinating, complex system in Antarctica overnight. Even 6 years from now, we'll still be discovering something new, said project leader Kirsty Tinta. Note the project's name, Rosetta Ice, which echoes the name of another famous project that revolutionized scientists' understanding of the ancient world, Rosetta Rosette Stone. The very name of the project is a linguistic reference to the stone because, ultimately, the project isn't studying the ice itself, but rather the stone that forms it. Also, note the words. While it's not necessarily possible to reach it, scientists will continue to study such things as long as they can. Technically, reaching this structure is certainly not difficult. It's actually close to the surface of the water there. But Kirsty Tinta, the longtime director of the research project, is clearly suggesting here that there are other reasons, unexplained, why scientists cannot reach the mysterious structure that is, in fact, the center of their research. Because there is a ban on doing so. Interestingly, despite the project's enormous budget, neither bathyscapes nor submarines, which would logically be the key research tools, are mentioned or used at all. But, of course, echo sounders and other equipment still provide a clear picture. Published data also shows that magnetic and gravitational anomalies, the official pretext for keeping the Ross Sea classified, also run along the rock and owe their anomalous nature to it. It's also worth considering the enormous difference in seafloor depth to the left and right of the Great Rock structure. We don't know how vast this difference is. Scientists have concealed these figures from the general public. But the very fact that scientists use terms like enormous and massive to describe the difference in depths, rather than the usual numbers, speaks volumes. Scientists can no longer ignore the influence of this ancient rock structure when exploring Antarctica. Without it, it would be impossible to determine wind patterns, mineral distribution, or study marine life, sea currents, or water temperature. This ancient rock structure plays a vital role in a number of processes occurring in Antarctica and impacting the entire world. A quote from Gerald Sinclair's August 29, 2019, publication, which bears this title, "Melting Ice in Antarctica Has Revealed an Ancient Rock Structure." We all know Antarctica holds a wealth of mysteries, but while this place never ceases to amaze us, we were completely surprised by such a remarkable discovery. Earlier this year, A study published in the journal Nature Joyations revealed that it had delineated a clear line delineating the boundary protecting the ice shelf known as the Ross Ice Shelf. This boundary makes the seafloor deeper on one side than on the other, something we hadn't previously known. This boundary is essentially a huge hidden rock or elongated boulder, which likely existed has been in place for hundreds and hundreds of millions of years. It controls the flow of water, as noted above, and in many ways acts as a buffer. This boundary prevents ice from spreading to other parts of the ocean, and researchers were only able to detect this ancient rock structure using a device known as an ASPAD. Thanks to this, researchers can see the internal structure of many ice bodies and other similar objects in a variety of ways. End of quote. Seismic stations around the world have discovered a phenomenon that challenges conventional understanding of Earth's behavior. These mysterious vibrations, known as microseisms, continuously pulse within the Earth at a frequency of 0.05 to 0.1 Hz, creating a phenomenon that has puzzled researchers since their first description in the early 1900s. The initial discovery of microseisms occurred when seismologists noticed that their instruments were recording constant movements of the Earth's surface even during periods of complete seismic silence. There were no earthquakes, no volcanic activity, yet the Earth continued to vibrate with mechanical precision. These weren't random fluctuations or instrumental errors, but organized rhythmic signals that propagated thousands of kilometers through solid rock. What makes microseisms particularly alarming is their ubiquity. Every seismometer on Earth continuously records these signals, creating a global detection network that reveals the planet's constant motion. Unlike the powerful tremors of earthquakes or the predictable patterns of tidal forces, microseisms represent a source of energy operating according to rules that science has not yet fully understood. The frequency range of these signals is below human perception, but within the detection range of modern seismographic equipment. Traveling at the speed of sound in rock, approximately 8 kilometers per second, these waves can circle the globe many times before dissipating. Their persistence suggests an energy source that never ceases, never requires recharging, and operates with a clockwork regularity that defies natural randomness. A global seismographic network, comprising more than 150 monitoring stations worldwide, has revealed patterns in microseismic activity that challenge our understanding of Earth's nature. These stations, equipped with instruments capable of detecting surface movements smaller than an atom, record microseismic signals that exhibit mathematical relationships that go beyond what random natural processes should produce. The signals demonstrate coordination over vast distances. Changes in intensity in one location trigger corresponding responses at stations located thousands of kilometers away. These microseismic waves, or vibrations, actually originate in the depths of the ocean, at the very brink of contact with a great underwater wall that, like a guitar string, runs through planet Earth and sets its resonance. Nothing else can do this. The wall, like a spine, sends impulses throughout the body. Situated generally far from Earth, covered by a thick layer of water, the wall sets an indirect vibration throughout all parts of the Earth. While microseismic waves are difficult to trace back to their origins, longer frequency waves are easy to trace. And here's what it turns out. They lead to the Great Underwater Wall. In August 2017, satellites from various countries recorded a strange phenomenon in the Ross Sea. Giant waves formed in the center of this sea, then swept across the entire Atlantic Ocean. The nature of these waves and the mechanism by which they were generated are unclear. Scientists say a strange underwater resonance occurred, leading to the formation of these long, smooth, and abnormally high waves. And the original source of these waves was, of course, an ancient rock structure. As soon as these anomalous, unexplained waves were recorded in 2017 by various countries, the Ross Sea was closed to everyone, and subsequently, the entire central Atlantic Ocean, through which the wall runs, was removed from Google Maps. But the generation of giant waves is far from the only function of the Great Underwater Wall. Even the generation of microseismic waves is not its only function. But the fact is that these microseismic waves, so vital for the health of the planet and for life on it, are also generated by the Great Underwater Wall. But the most interesting and most expensive, modern, ongoing research around the Great Underwater Wall will begin quite recently, in 2025, when the wall suddenly, as scientists say, began to speak. The wall literally began to speak. In 2025, the entire scientific world was shocked by reports of mysterious radio signals of enormous cosmic power being detected in Antarctica, emanating from beneath the ice in the area of the wall. But, as it turns out, scientists had long known about this and had even conducted relevant research. The information was made public approximately 15 to 20 years after the phenomenon's discovery. But in 2025, with the launch of a new multi-billion-dollar study, some facts began to become more widely known. Experimental balloons carrying instruments, hovering high above Antarctica along with the Antarctic Pulse Antenna, ANITA, recorded strange radio wave pulses emanating from below. The study is being conducted as part of the cosmic ray research programs at CERN, the LHC, and NASA. For over 10 years, scientists have been observing phenomena through a series of sensors that they cannot explain. This is an inverted shower of cosmic rays, not reflected from the surface, but emanating from beneath the ice sheet. This is fundamentally impossible, but it is. Dick, it turns out that from somewhere beneath the ice are emanating essentially the same rays, or similar ones, as those coming to Earth from space. And these rays are not reflected from space, but generated somewhere on Earth. But while everything seems clear with the cosmic rays falling on Earth, they're the result of cosmic radiation, that is, the emission from numerous stars and galaxies. Scientists are still only guessing, or pretending to guess, about the source of these rays emanating from Earth. It's a mystery. The radio waves we detected were incident at very steep angles, about 30 degrees below the surface of the ice, explains astrophysicist Stephanie Wissel of Pennsylvania State University. Modeling showed that neither protons nor other known particles can explain the detected anti-signals within the framework of standard physics. This is an interesting problem because we still don't have an explanation for these anomalies, but we do know for sure that they most likely aren't neutrinos. The Antarctic Pulse Transient Antenna experiment was designed to study ultra-high-energy cosmic neutrinos by detecting radio pulses emitted when they interact with the Antarctic ice sheet. This was accomplished using an array of radio antennas suspended from a helium balloon floating at an altitude of approximately 37,000 meters. Thousands of sensors are located beneath the Antarctic ice, distributed in multiple layers, and more sensors are being installed all the time. It is the most expensive scientific experiment in human history, and it is closely linked to research at CERN and NASA, of which it is a subsidiary. The AGE-RA experiment builds on the IceCube experiment, which began in 2025 and currently covers an area of over 200 square kilometers along the 180th meridian, extending through a wall with multi-tiered sensors and instruments embedded deep in the ice. This makes this icy wasteland one of the most expensive investments on Earth, comparable to downtown New York City. Hundreds of millions of dollars are literally buried in the glaciers, and hundreds more millions of dollars are being launched into the sky by balloons. Together, this creates an incredibly expensive, yet clearly detectable, wall-based observation system. The scientists' general conclusions: truly cosmic ultra-high energies emanate from Earth, from the wall. This is officially recognized. To be considered ultra-high, a cosmic ray must have a kinetic energy of the order of a quintillion electron volts or 1,000 petaelectron volts. Compressing so much energy into such a tiny object, a trillion times smaller than a speck of dust, far exceeds the capabilities of human accelerators, which at best can produce particles with energies comparable to those of a flying mosquito. And sensors installed near the wall in the Ross Sea are now registering energies up to 300 times greater, a whopping 300,000 petavolts. For context, this is comparable to a subatomic projectile traveling at the speed of light or faster, coming from deep space, which could strike with a force comparable to all-destroying or all-transforming. The energies emanating from the wall are destined to either destroy the world or recreate it, as scientific journals report. These studies could lead either to the discovery of laws of physics beyond the standard model or to the discovery of previously unknown natural phenomena in the unique conditions of Antarctica, where the combination of transparent ice, the absence of industrial interference, and a stable atmosphere create ideal conditions for studying rare physical processes. For now, Anita's signals remain inexplicable within the framework of modern physics. What do we actually have? We have a powerful stream of particles emanating from somewhere beneath the ice in Antarctica. From somewhere. Now let's ask a question that those scientific journals that write about this anomaly forget to ask. From where? The answer to the riddle will be revealed at the location of the research station, McMurdo Station, from which balloon launches and other measurements are carried out in the aforementioned experiment, the American Antarctic Research Station at the southern end of Ross Island. In Russian medieval legends and folklore, the sacred stone is the father of all stones, the navel of the earth, containing sacred writings and imbued with healing properties. It is often mentioned in Russian spells, primarily love spells, as a mighty force that has no end.
The Aladar stone is the center of the world, lying at the origin of all beginnings, the so-called navel of the earth. The father of all stones, a mighty force imbued with healing properties. A majestic world tree grows upon it, and from beneath it, life-giving waters flow in all directions, filled with rivers of life. Spiritual verses describe how a miraculous spring flows from beneath the white Aladar stone, providing the entire world with nourishment and healing. Aladar is guarded by the wise snake Grafina and the bird Gugna. The bird Gugna is also called the Gamayan bird. Slavic legends claim this stone was erected during the creation of the world. This stone ran deep along the ocean floor, and on that stone was located the famous island of Bayan.
Russia, Bayan Island. This stone is so large that, although it is under the ocean, it is still larger. It supports the world tree and is hidden from human eyes by the water. This is the ancient prime meridian. The presence of the wall ensures the functioning of the magnetic flux. The wall runs under the Bay of the Cross. The wall runs beneath Russia, which is this great island of Bayan, a gigantic island on which, according to ancient Slavic legends, the great final kingdom will be. Now you know whose kingdom this is and where it is. The kingdom of Russia, Holy Rus.
В среду глава Русской Православной Церкви впервые посетил Антарктиду. Патриарх Кирилл.
The great underwater wall in religions. Alat-Ar is clearly noted in the Vedic tradition. In the Holy Scriptures of the Old Testament, one of the fundamental concepts of God's creation of the world is the understanding of the laying of the foundation of the temple in the concept of the foundation stone of Eben Shetiyah. According to the religious texts of Mesopotamia, ancient Babylonia, and Israel, it was from this stone that creation began, and it became the cornerstone of the entire world. This idea is clearly reflected already in the second book of Enoch. In rabbinic sources, the foundation stone was often identified with the foundation of the heavenly sanctuary. This is a very important observation, with profound meaning. The wall serves, among other things, as a gigantic celestial scanner, which, like the shaft of a music box, comes into contact with all the stars of heaven, transmitting their inaudible music to the earth, like the music of life itself. God asks the patriarch Job, 4. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me, if you know. 5. Who laid its measures, if you know? Or who stretched out the shipyard upon it? 6. On what are its foundations fastened? Or who laid the cornerstone thereof? 7. When the morning stars sang together, and all the sons of God shouted for joy. Ev. 38. This primordial stone is endowed in ancient sources with the additional function of a cosmic dam, serving to calm and seal the waters of chaos. People have certainly known about the wall at all times, which is reflected not only in legends, but also in cartography. Let us take a short digression into cartography. Here's one of the most detailed world maps from the 16th century. It's currently housed in the Vatican Museum. Note the ruler around the circumference of the map, the main ruler that aligns the meridians on the map, in the same place it is today, along the anti-Greenwich axis, along the wall. Gerardus Mercator, first map of the North Pole, 1569, published by Hendrik Hondius in 1606. Mercator uniquely places the 290th meridian, numerically unremarkable according to Danish maps, on the map. He highlights it with a bold, multicolored line, and it's also used to calculate other meridians. What did Mercator find so special about this 290th meridian? It would seem that there's nothing special about it, except perhaps for the interesting fact that this is the line outlined by the wall, the prime meridian, modern-day Greenwich. Look at the map by Nicolas Deline, completed in 1566. Nicolas Deline, Planisphere, 1566. There it is, the wall, on his world map. And again, it's not at the center of the existing meridian coordinate system, but is highlighted in a special way. It's not simply marked, but used as a ruler for measuring longitude and latitude. All of this is even more clearly visible on the 1601 map by the Dutch cartographer Abraham Artelius, who, back in 1570, created the first geographical atlas, used by all sailors and comprising 70 large-format maps. On the maps in his atlas, as on his world map, the modern Greenwich anti-Greenwich line is the central, key line. Look at his world map, where the center line also corresponds to the lateral lines bordering the map. And this, of course, is the wall and its corresponding Greenwich. Look at the constellation of these magnificent maps, one following the other. Each one is so different, yet they all agree on the designation of the prime meridian. Although it may be designated by different numbers, it is marked in a special way, either by the outline of hemispheres or by a separate line. Jacques-Dominique Cassini was perhaps the first to zero this line for ease of reference. Following Cassini, John Sellers and other cartographers of the time adopted this zero coordinate. Some drew it along modern Greenwich, others along Cassini. There were many variations, but they all revolved around the wall. The Great Underwater Wall runs precisely along the 180th meridian, that is, along the prime meridian, along the anti-Greenwich, the international line of variable time, from which all meridians originate. Or, better yet, the prime meridian is drawn along the Great Underwater Wall. Photo of participants in the 1884 conference. What happened at the Washington Conference in 1884? Interestingly, the Greenwich meridian was proposed at the conference and scientifically substantiated not by the British, but, oddly enough, by Russian astronomer Otto Struve, son of the founder of the Struve astronomical dynasty, Vasily Struve, founder of the Pulkovo Observatory in St. Petersburg, along which the Pulkovo meridian ran. Since Russia and St. Petersburg were also laying claim to being a maritime power at the time, it would be logical to assume that Struve would choose the Pulkovo meridian as the prime meridian. This was what had been done in Russia before, counting from it. But something compelled the famous Russian astronomer to take the initiative to adopt Greenwich as the prime meridian. So what were his considerations? These considerations were presented in 1884 at the International Meridian Conference in Washington by Professor Fleming, the leading proponent of the Greenwich meridian idea, and played a key role in the decision. However, these notes were first presented not in Washington, but in Russia, in Struve's report to the Imperial Academy of Sciences in St. Petersburg on September 30, 1880. As director of the Pulkovo Observatory and Russia's chief astronomer, he urged the adoption of Greenwich as the prime meridian, based on astronomical evidence. Unfortunately, the text of Struve's report itself has not survived. However, fascinating books have survived, written by Struve's student and one of the main proponents of the Greenwich meridian, the renowned astronomer, public figure, and statesman of the time, Walter Maunder. Maunder wrote several books sharing his memories of the 1884 conference. For example, Maunder's book, Biblical Astronomy, is a classic. A remarkable book, it must be said. In it, the president of the British Society of Astrologers reveals himself as a profound theologian, believing in the inspiration of the Bible and the truth of every word. Maunder approached the book primarily from the perspective of a scientist and astronomer, and therefore focused on what the Bible teaches about astronomy. The result is a fascinating picture, one that Maunder makes very clear in some places, while in others he seems cautious and understates something, particularly when it comes to the 180th meridian, a position for which Mundar was a fervent advocate. A leading figure in the adoption of the 1884 resolution, Mundar consistently promoted the idea that Greenwich is not simply pragmatic but astronomically determined, and that the choice of the 0.180th meridian was determined primarily by astronomical reasons, such as the equinoxes and solstices, which are of practical significance for Earth. These 4 marks mark the cardinal cross and represent the 4 points in the sky where the sun changes direction. This cross marks the intersection of 2 objective measurement lines, the equator and the 180th meridian. Thus, the starry sky itself clearly and distinctly indicates both the Great Underwater Wall and its location on the map. The lines of the sky and the wall align remarkably during the spring and autumn equinoxes. This alone would be enough to rightfully grant the 180th meridian the status of a time-variable line, the prime meridian. A time-variable line. But enough of ice, deep-sea exploration, astronomy, religion, and science for now. Let's travel to warmer climes, where, if you have a few tens of thousands of dollars to spare, you can dive for yourself near this ancient stone structure that crosses the Pacific Ocean and stretches from the south to the North Pole. Somewhere in the middle of this stretch, in the ocean, we'll walk and dive with you virtually. But where can we find such a place? Let's try a simple search, as everyone does these days. Online. Type in the words, "Diving Great Andra Troll." One of the first pages that comes up is this one, inviting you to dive along some great white wall. A bit intriguing, right? We browse the internet some more, and yes, no more invitations or offers. More precisely, there are offers from other sites, but they all invite you to the same place. There are no other offers. Let's see where we're being invited. We're being invited to Tavenaugh Island, in the Fiji archipelago. Let's see where it is. This tiny island sits right on the 180th meridian, perched on a wall. This is Tavenaugh Island on today's Google map. Notice the stripe running through it. That's the mark left by the wall being cut out. In the photos below, I'll show you the same place from old Google Maps.
You're live to the whole world.
In case I don't see ya, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. Yeah.
And between the neighboring islands of Kiribati and Nauru, there's a 25-hour difference. This means that every day you can, so to speak, travel back to yesterday for a whole day, or skip to tomorrow for a whole day, and then return and spend the same calendar day on the neighboring island. Good afternoon, good evening, and good night. One of the secret islands is Robbie Island, located near Taveuni. Notice how, just like on modern Google Maps, the stitches and tension marks from the wall's cutting are still visible. The color difference is due to the fact that these are now multiple photos stitched together. Previously, before the wall was removed from the maps, there was no color difference. The entire wall fit in a single photo, and its edges had the same resolution as the entire underwater landscape. Robbie Island, perched on the wall. You could, it seems, see and read a little about Robbie Island, how the natives live, how they fish, and how generously the research corporation based on the island helps them. But the island has many restricted areas. Google even went to the trouble of whitewashing all the rooftops on the island. Where the whitewash isn't there, there are thick Photoshop clouds, making it impossible to see anything. All the resorts and diving centers offered by the Norians along the Great White Wall are all located on the wall. They're all located near the Samosat Strait, a strait that runs right along the wall and frames the islands of the archipelago. You'll be taken to the very edge of the wall, where it runs close to the surface, and where, right along the edge of the wall, a unique coral reef has formed thanks to the constant, steady current, also provided by the wall's bed and its proximity to the surface. Red flags mark the spot where tour operators take divers. Independent diving is prohibited, citing coral reef protection. It's called Rainbow Reef. This isn't the wall yet. The wall, known to oceanic inhabitants since time immemorial, begins directly beneath this reef. But the reef seems to frame the wall. Note the purple stripe on the map. It's roughly the center of the wall. This is the 180th meridian, or the international timeline. All these conventional human measurements aren't so arbitrary after all. So let's put on our scuba gear and see what we can see. All the footage I'm sharing is taken from videos taken by various divers. Did any of them dive to the wall, just a few meters below the reef? Most likely. Judge for yourself. This is also from an amateur film of divers at the Rainbow Reef and the White Wall. I've read dozens of reviews from divers. Experienced divers write that they've never seen or experienced anything like it in their entire lives. The scale of what they saw, the perfectly smooth lines, the bottomlessness of the wall, all of this amazes even the most seasoned divers. Moreover, this entire Great White Wall, at least the section shown to divers, is alive. The corals that inhabit this wall are of an incomparable whiteness. The sheer diversity of marine life, including all sorts of colorful fluorescent corals and fish, is stunning. Imagine the wall, with its indestructible inner core of a super-strong conductor, as a giant scanner stretching from pole to pole. This scanner regularly, daily, scans the entire starry sky, receiving its signals. About 5 kilometers wide, with a core about 1.5 kilometers wide, the wall misses no signal, even on a cloudy day or night, from any celestial body. All stars, all planets, all celestial bodies emit their own frequency, their own melody, their own power. The wall captures and registers these signals and energy, transforming them into information and, possibly, a response. In Russian folklore, this stone has been called the umbilical cord of the earth, the tree of life, the Belgorod stone, Alatar, and Unadir. It was believed that this incredibly long tree, encircling the entire earth, gives life to everything and reacts sensitively to everything that happens. The umbilical cord is the connection between the earth and the sky. It is the cornerstone of the earth, a great underwater wall. Through the wall, like a gigantic scanner from which nothing in the starry sky, no angle, no far corner, can escape, the complete connection between the earth and the sky is realized. The wall is like a great transmitter. The wall not only reads, inevitably accurately and objectively, the information, the song, the energy of the sky for each day. It transmits this song to the sky and the earth. This is the source of the inexplicable underground cosmic radiation emanating from it, and which scientists study. The wall, figuratively speaking, sings cosmic energies for the earth, creating a certain charge, specific wave signals for each day for the entire world. It's a kind of giant radio, transmitting unmistakable information about Earth to the sky, and, reflected from the heavens, transmitting the totality of celestial influences back to Earth. And although people don't usually hear this song with their physical ears, and although not everyone is attuned to it, it touches everyone in one way or another. Let's examine these waves emitted by the wall, the study of which is currently humanity's most expensive project. The Earth's stroboscope. The Earth's foundation, or cornerstone, sets the foundation for all of the Earth's force fields, which make possible both the existence of life on Earth and the planet itself. The wall defines all of these force vectors, the pillars of the Earth. The most obvious, crude, and simplified example is that the wall creates the Earth's poles and its magnetic field. but it does incomparably more. It's not simply a blind, crude electromagnetic field that it generates. It's much, much more. The endless development of rotations, reaching transcendental frequencies of the electrical and magnetic energies of the wall's ring, reveals the stroboscope effect that scientists are trying to achieve in the tank. The Great Underwater Wall, or alligator, is the Earth's stroboscope, which receives light and the vibrations of all cosmic bodies, along with enormous cosmic energy and energies from the Earth, from people, as we will see, and transforms this information into a real projection of planet Earth and what is happening on it. Scientists have long used strobes to generate and transmit invisible light and inaudible sound vibrations. Modern visible spectrum strobes are capable of creating a complete illusion of reality through wave transmission of light. Laser light is also light from multiple sources simultaneously. Audiences at the 2024 production of MJ the Musical leaned forward, holding their breath, as Michael Jackson's figure materialized on stage. Thanks to collaboration with cutting-edge AR-3 and 9 Hong Kong dollars LED panels from Infilt, Michael Jackson returned to perform Billie Jean not as a hologram, but as a hyper-realistic digital projection, seamlessly integrated with live dancers. The effect was uncanny. The king of pop's signature moonwalk glided across a dynamic LED floor that rippled like liquid mercury. Social media exploded. "I forgot he wasn't real," one fan tweeted. Thanks to new developments in the creation of 3D objects in real time, broadcast concerts have been held for many years. A performer sings in one place on one side of the Earth, while an exact volumetric light replica, completely indistinguishable from the performer, is projected somewhere in another hall on the other side of the world. A photorealistic digital avatar of the performer reproduces all their movements in real time. Furthermore, computer-generated images are generated that do not exist in reality, but can be created and transmitted over any distance. None of this was invented by scientists, but rather observed in nature. A wall or stone, although primarily an earth-forming, load-bearing element, receives and generates much more than just the foundation of the planet. It is the stone from which rivers of water flow, as figuratively depicted in Holy Scripture. In the same scripture, water is often synonymous with a spiritual substance, the foundation of the material world. A recent study has shown that it's possible, while still in two dimensions, to create desired geometric realities at any distance using a quantum stroboscope, and not just transmit information, but create them materially. Out of nothing. But out of nothing, ex nihilo, God already created this world. Nothing exists anymore. But there are spectra of light that, in their combinations and intersections, are capable of creating the material world literally from invisible light, that is, vibrations. The study was published in Physical Review Letters. Scientists are creating material, albeit still miniature, structures from light waves. Even the largest CERN is not yet capable of larger ones. It's still at a primitive level, but the process is already underway. This study not only demonstrates that physical reality is the result of a complex relationship of multiple light and vibrational waves, in which planet Earth literally bathes, but all the quantum tweezers that scientists use today to create material reality, like the 2D printer, are really just tweezers compared to the Great Underwater Wall, like Earth's gigantic stroboscope. Scientists have long been using the wall as a Great Hadron Collider in all the most promising and most expensive scientific fields, a veritable tank that accelerates particles to speeds capable of printing the reality of life on Earth. But only God's children, in the image and likeness of God, have a direct and unconditional connection with the stone, with the printer. Yes, the stone receives signals from above, from the heavens, as well as the power to ensure this world exists, to live, to enable certain events to occur. But in addition to these signals from above, the wall also receives signals from us, from God's children. This is our creative co-creation of the planet, its transformation into the state bequeathed to us by the Creator, Paradise 2.0. Enormous energies pass through us humans to Earth, which we involuntarily channel and transform. And through this, we influence, without realizing it, the work of the cornerstone. This essentially makes people connected to the stone omnipotent creators of reality. The earth is created in the likeness of man because it is created, built, and arranged specifically for man, and therefore reflects all his characteristics, peculiarities, and needs. He is made and tailored, like an expensive suit that fits perfectly. What your spine does for your body, transmitting and coordinating brain signals to all parts of your body, is similar to what the enormous, living stone of Earth, created by God, does for the entire planet. The Earth's spine is a complex and ingenious system, engineered and built by God, for himself, for his son, for his children. God gave the spine to our beautiful planet. It is the foundation of the world, the cornerstone of the earth. Hidden underground and underwater, it, like our spine, bears the main physical load, providing a framework for the entire body, and also provides the energy and information supply, without which life is impossible. When your back hurts, your entire body suffers. When conductivity is disrupted, or when constriction, inflammation, or signal distortion occurs, various organs suffer. What is the mechanism of our planet's illness, on which, as Scripture says, all creation suffers and is in torment? Is it possible to heal the planet? Yes, it is. The wall reflects and amplifies the signals sent to it by people. It hears. God said to Moses, "Speak to the wall, speak to the stone." It hears. We, you, I, and the wall are made for each other. I don't need an atomic collider or a quantum computer to connect to the wall. Low vibrational, evil, and dark beings need CERN to try to hack the wall's functions. But I, and we, people of light, people of good, are naturally connected to it. I am one with it with every fiber of my soul, as are you, although you may not yet know it. Now you know. The wall captures our vibrations, both individual and collective, and amplifies and manifests them in us as individuals and on a societal level, respectively, and throughout the world. And here it is crucial for society to harmonize, that is, to vibrate in roughly the same frequency range, in order to achieve something good from the wall. We will touch on an extremely important issue, practically unknown to the general public, but profoundly vital. One that can radically change, and will change not only the lives of individuals, like you, for example, but also of all humanity. This is the topic of the purity of the Earth's vibration and your ability to manage its purity. Our findings will be extremely practical and relevant. After all, they concern not only the mechanism that produces these oscillations, and not even just the effect these oscillations have on the Earth, but also how you yourself can use these oscillations, generate them, and multiply your vibrations billions of times, connecting them with the wall's vibrations. This is not only possible, but has happened and continues to happen to us unconsciously. And then a miracle occurs. But we will begin to learn to create this same miracle consciously, for sure. How is this possible? The HeartMed Institute in California has been researching heart rate variability, HRV, for over 25 years and has discovered that when the difference between heartbeats forms a smooth sine wave with a frequency of approximately 0.1 Hz, one cycle every 10 seconds, the body enters a state they call cardiac coherence. In simple terms, when a person meditates, this process, scientifically known as cardiac coherence, occurs. The human body, your body in this case, during deep prayerful meditation begins to vibrate, quite objectively and measurably, at the same frequency as the wall. You have all, from time to time, even in your unconscious state, due to a number of factors and causes, love, joy, happiness, and so on, inadvertently entered this frequency and began to vibrate at it. At this frequency, anything is possible. This is also called a resourceful state. But a truly strong connection between you and the cornerstone of the earth is established when you enter this resourceful state consciously. That is, recognizing who you are, a child of God, and recognizing your exalted position, seated at the Father's throne, accompanied by a state of joy and gratitude. And in this resourceful state, you begin to vibrate at the frequency of the wall or the earth. In other words, you become a subscriber to a powerful telephone system that operates on this wavelength. This can be compared to your cell phone, through which you can communicate with any corner of the earth, receive any information whatsoever, manage processes, give orders, and conduct monetary and other transactions. These processes are possible not because your cell phone has such a powerful transmitter, a process transformer, but your cell phone operates on the operator's frequency, and therefore it is connected to the entire network. But at the same time, you have your own number, your own name, and your call or message is not confused with others. This telephone device, like all human inventions, is essentially a replica of human design. You, with your name, your number, your unique human identity, are this tiny telephone. But when you're charged, when you're at the right frequency, in a resourceful state, you're connected to a vast global network in which the Earth's Eurocarbon stone is the antenna, transmitter, producer, and delivery system. And you're connected to everyone else who operates on the same frequency. And now, pay attention, you must make your important call. You must connect with the stone and express in words how you want this world to be. And while your order is being processed, manufactured, and delivered, you can relax and be grateful. The CERN, the tank, is essentially an attempt to hack the wall. And the point is that, to some extent, this is possible. After all, everything is possible for people if you believe. Incidentally, ignorant people, through their faith, managed, like thieves, as Jesus warned, to obtain many blessings from the earth, simply because they believed that these blessings belonged to them, that they could have what everyone wanted. Jesus reproachfully told his disciples, "For the sons of this age are wiser in their generation than the sons of light." Luke 16 verse 8, hinting, of course, that the sons of light are incredibly slow in using their faith, that they will succeed, that they will receive a miracle, that they will receive all the good things they dream of.
The wall opens up entirely new possibilities for humanity. The wall is the line by which every person would have to stop and pause and literally choose life or death. This line is officially called the timeline. When we cross this line, we open for ourselves and others the new time when everything will change. But how profound the change will be, I don't even want to start discussing here the practical implications or the conclusions that the intelligent people would draw from God's revealed understanding of this wall. Technologies capable of anything will quickly emerge, but we must change first, and then the world around us will change one way or another. The great underwater wall is a threshold of a new world, and we are already at this threshold. And my material about the wall only serves to inform us that if you want to live, if you want to be happy, think for yourself what you must do, what practical steps to take. But we need to unite all the children of light, and we need to do it urgently. What is your calling? What is your step? We will learn to connect to the stone in prayerful meditation and unite all our dreams into one dream of the beautiful world, divinely appointed world on this planet.